Hare Krishna. We were reading from the fifth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 18. I believe we have discussed the text 26. Today we will begin with text 27. So we read the beautiful prayers of Mother Lakshmi Devi. And now we read further. Yam lokapale ke vimatsarajara. Yam lokapala ke vimatsarajara. Itvayatanto ke prithak sametya cha. Itvayatanto ke prithak sametya cha. Atum na shekur pushpada. Atum na shekur pushpada. Sarish Sharishikam sthanuyat atra drishyate. My Lord, from the great leaders of the universe, such as Lord Brahma and the other demigods, down to the political leaders of this world, all are envious of your authority. Without your help, however, they could neither separately nor concertedly maintain the innumerable living entities within the universe. You're actually the only maintainer of all the human beings, animals like cows and asses, and of plants, reptiles, birds, mountains, and whatever else is visible within this material world. But it is fashionable for materialistic persons to compete with the power of God. When so-called scientists try to manufacture living entities in their laboratories, their only purpose is to defy the talent and ability of the Supreme Personality of God. This is called illusion. It exists even in the higher planetary systems where great demigods like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva and others reside. In this world, everyone is puffed up with the false prestige, despite the failure of all his endeavors. In this world, everyone is. So when so-called philanthropists who supposedly want to help the poor are approached by members of the Krishna consciousness movement, they say you're simply wasting your time while I am feeding vast masses of starving people. Unfortunately, their meager efforts, either singly or together, do not solve anyone's problems. Sometimes so-called swamis are very eager to feed the poor people, thinking them to be Daridra Narayan. The Lord's incarnations are beggars. They prefer to serve the manufactured Daridra Narayan than the original Supreme Narayan. They say don't encourage service to Lord Narayan. It is better to serve the starving people of the world. Unfortunately, such materialists, either singly or combined in the form of United Nations, cannot fulfill their plans. The truth is that many millions of human beings, animals, birds, and trees, indeed all living entities, are maintained solely by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Eko Bahuna Yovidadhati. The necessities of life for all other living entities. To challenge the authority of Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the business of the Asuras, the demons. Yet some Asuras or devotees, some Suras or devotees are also bewildered by the illusory energy and falsely claim to be the maintainer of the entire universe. Such incidents are described in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Sukadeva Goswami tells how Lord Brahma and King Indra became puffed up and were eventually chastised by Krishna. So this is Vaivasvat Manu speaking glorification of Lord Matsya. And this is the Ramyaka Varsha. So in the Ramyaka Varsha, Vaivasvat Manu is speaking here, and he's worshipping Lord Matsyavatar. So here Vaivasvat Manu is speaking how even the demigods are envious of the Supreme. The envy towards the Supreme Lord is rampant all over, especially when people see the Lord is performing, or when people interface the Lord having performed the display of the Lord's supernatural powers. And the people see that display of the Lord's supernatural powers, the people are not able to. So that triggers envy, and therefore people want to imitate. And Prabhupada is very rightly saying that it is people take it now people now so it is a fashion to compete with the power of God. People want to make big setups for what? Demonstrating. Okay, I can also do something big. Why only God is doing big things? I'll also do big things. This competition is the power of God. Completely based out of illusion, but this is false ego. So people want to make their big empires, think that okay, I'm a very big man. I'm feeding millions of people who are poor. Still, none of these people who are now who are feeding even millions of people or whatever, now they are not able to eradicate poverty. Still, the very people whom they have fed, how much they can feed, how long they can feed, no? How much it creates a difference in those people's lives. So some one-off here, there, something can be done. And that's all. So therefore, Prabhupada is expressing remorse. Prabhupada is saying that okay, people have manufactured their own idea of God. See, God is appearing in as a beggar. We should serve that. That is the Narayan. But they're not ready to accept the Lord coming in his original form. Actually, in the Bhagavatam, when we see the the subjugation under the different modes are described as prithak bhava. So it says, okay, this is prithak bhava, saraja saha, prithak bhava, satam saha. The separatist mentality. Actually, this prithak bhava arises out of this platform of envy to the Supreme. When one does not want to blow the Lord's trumpet, but one wants to blow his or her own trumpet, as there is sort of envy. See, why Vaivasvat Manu is speaking there? When he's speaking about Lord Matsya actually performs such a supernatural activity. So a devotee who doesn't have envy in his heart, such a devotee will take shelter of the Lord, seeing that oh, the Lord is so powerful. So I don't need anyone other than the Lord's shelter. That's it. One with envy as will try to compete, will try to match. So what? I will also show them. I will also improve in what I show and demonstrate. So this is envy. And Prabhupada gives many examples of this kind of envious mindset towards God. Like many times people have an objection, why so many big gorgeous temples? But when people make a house of themselves, they want to make a super palace. But when it comes to God, they feel that, oh, why are you spending so much money? So this is false ego. So some people say, oh, for God, you're spending so much money. Yeah, it is better than spending money on yourself. For one's own marriage, one is ready to spend 2 crores. In 1 crore, we are able to do whole Rath Yatra for 9 days. With 20 lakh people visiting. So much prasad, so much, and wherein in 2 crores, a person may just do his own wedding and come back. Ironically, sometimes such weddings only last 6 months, 8 months. What a joke, is it not? So this is exactly false ego. So rather, you see, one who has some opulence and certain powers which are given to such a person by the mercy of God, such a person should be completely humble, grateful. But instead of that, now mostly the people start feeling um, instead of grateful, they're feeling intoxicated, and they're feeling proud, or they start seeing. So the mindset is that's arising out of envy. So false ego is a very foolish game. So when we see the display of the Lord's greatness, immediately that should trigger feelings of taking shelter of the Lord. Oh, Krishna is so great. Let me take shelter. The false ego is such foolish, and they see greater person thinking, no, I will also become greater than that. At least I'll show some level of greatness. So very ridiculous. No logic in false ego actually. So here, Vivasvat Manu is describing that the Lord's pastimes are so amazing and they need to be relished. Not that one is simply succumbing to envy and thereby feeding or inflating one's false pride. The sweet word. Pavan Yugantaranav Urmimalin Shonimimamaushadhi Virudam Nidhim Maya Sahuru Kramate Cha Ojasa तस्मै जगत्प्राणागणात्मने नमः इति Oh, Almighty Lord, at the end of the millennium, this planet Earth, which is the source of all kinds of herbs, drugs, and trees, was inundated by water and drowned beneath the devastating waves. At that time, you protected me along with the earth and roamed the sea with great speed. O unborn one, you are the actual maintainer of the entire universal creation, and therefore you are the cause of all the living entities. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Envious persons cannot appreciate how wonderfully the Lord creates, maintains, and annihilates the universe. But devotees of the Lord can understand this perfectly well. Devotees can see how the Lord is acting behind the wonderful workings of the material nature. In Bhagavad Gita 9:10, the Lord says, Maya adhyakshen prakriti sujyate sacharachara netunanena kante jagat vipari vartate. This material nature is working under my direction as son of Kunti, and it is producing all moving and unmoving beings. By its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. All the wonderful transformations of nature are happening under the superintendence of the Supreme Personality of God. Envious persons cannot see this, but a devotee, even though very humble and even if uneducated, knows that behind all the activities of nature is a supreme hand of the Supreme Being. Here, you see, Vaivasvat Manu was remembering how and everything was being devastated. The Lord protected him. It's a very beautiful meditation. Lord Matsyavatara actually protecting Vaivasvat Manu and sailing him through the waters of devastation. Actually, this nature of the Lord, this very activity of the Lord, very peculiar. Why? Because although this particular world with all its negativities and vices is very oceanic, but the Lord can sail us through. So that should be a beautiful prayer ringing in our heart. Oh Lord, just like you sail through Vaivasvat Manu. So similarly, please sail me through this ocean of negativity, which is drowning our very identity. And Prabhupada is quoting 910 Maya Dikshina Prakriti, and Prabhupada is quoting that. So that is to explain that you see the workings of the material nature may appear to be very ferocious and uncontrolled. But the point which comes out very beautifully is that behind all this is the hand of the Supreme Lord. And therefore, when one takes shelter of the Supreme Lord, then there is nothing to fear because the Lord can sail us through. So here the Lord is depicting that even if the devastation is as not just oceanic, but it is as huge as the entire universe, still the Lord has the power to sail us through. So why then we have to run for any other shelter here and there? Why then we have to stay sad or mad? Why not positively take shelter of the Supreme Lord? So beautifully being highlighted by this amazing meditation of Vaivasvat Manu. So therefore, very rightly Vaivasvat Manu is saying, you are the only maintainer of the entire universal creation. So whatever ups and downs are happening, The devotee is able to see the Lord's hand, and therefore a devotee is not disturbed. That's the point. Envious persons cannot see this. Therefore, they want to combat every phase of the mental energy. So when a materialistic person sees a positive situation, the materialistic person says, "Oh, situation is positive. Let me exploit it to the best." And if such a person he sees a negative situation, a materialistic person sees a negative situation, the materialistic person says, "Oh, it's a negative situation. I'll crush it. By my power, I am going to crush it." So therefore, with bhakti, we can learn to see the hand of God behind any situation. Therefore, whether it is a positive, negative situation, a devotee never gets disturbed. That's the point. Let's read further. Text 29. हिरण्मयेऽपि भगवान् निवसते कुर्मतम् विप्रनास्तस्य तत् प्रियतमं तनुमार्यं सह वर्षकृषे गणाधिपति उपधावति मन्त्रम् इमं चानुजापति. Sukadeva Goswami continues, the Hiranmaya Varsha, the Supreme Lord resides in the form of a tortoise, Kurma Sharira. This most dear and beautiful form is always worshipped there in devotional service by Haryama, the chief resident of the Hiranmaya Varsha, along with other inhabitants of the land. And they chant the following. So now we are coming to the Hiranmaya Varsha. When the Lord is beautifully revealing the form of a very beautiful form of a tortoise, Kurma Sharira. But the word Priyatama, dearmost, is very significant in this verse. Every devotee regards a particular form of the Lord as most dear. Because of an atheistic mentality, some people think that the tortoise, boar, and fish incarnations of the Lord are not very beautiful. They do not know that any form of the Lord is always the fully opulent personality of God. Since one of his opulences is infinite beauty, all the Lord's incarnations are very beautiful and are appreciated as such by devotees. Non-devotees, however, think that Lord Krishna's incarnations are ordinary. Non-devotees, however, think that Lord Krishna's incarnations are ordinary material creatures. Therefore, they distinguish between the beautiful and the non-beautiful. A certain form of the Lord is worshipped by a particular devotee because he loves to see that form of the Lord. As stated in the Brahma Samhita, Advaitamachyutamana Grimantharupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayo. The very beautiful form of the Lord is always youthful. Sincere servants, particular form of the Lord, always see that form is very beautiful and thus so sincere servants of particular form of the Lord always see that form as very beautiful. They engage in constant devotion service. So mundane calculations do not apply to this purpose. And just because mundane calculations don't apply to supreme personality of God, we can understand the supreme Lord is beyond the moon. So the Lord does not need any external manifestation or surrounding to prove his strength. So Prabhupada is concluding any form of the Lord can be very beautiful also. So here, exactly. Om Namo Bhagavate Prabhupada Sarva Sattva Guna Visheshanayanam Parachita Sthanaya Namo Varshamane Namo Bhumne Namo Namo Avasthanaya Namaste. Oh my Lord, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, who have assumed the form of a tortoise. So I offer my respectful obeisances unto you who have assumed the form of a tortoise. You are the reservoir of all the transcendental qualities, and being entirely unchanged by matter, you are perfectly situated in pure goodness. You move here and there in the water, but no one can discern your position. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Because of your transcendental position, you are not limited by past, present, and future. You are present everywhere at the shelter of all things, and therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you again and again. Okay. In the Brahma Samhita, it is said, Goloke Nivasati Akhilatma Bhutam. The Lord always remains in Goloka, the topmost planet in this spiritual world. At the same time, He is all pervading. There is paradox. It's only possible for Goloka Eva Nivasati Akhilatma Bhuto. The Lord remains in Goloka. At the same time, He is all pervading. This paradox is only possible for the Supreme Personality of God, who is full of all opulences. The Lord's all pervasiveness is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 1861, and the Lord saying, Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hriddeshya Arjuna Tishtati. The Supreme Lord is seated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna. Elsewhere in Bhagavad Gita 15:15, the Lord says, Sarvasya Chaham Hridi Sannivishta Attas Jnani. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me comes remembrance, knowledge. So, although the Lord is present everywhere, he cannot be seen with ordinary eyes. So, you see, Krishna's opulence is there for releasing. And the Lord is not limited by past, present, future. You are present everywhere. So, here Aryama is mentioning one example paradox how the Supreme Lord is residing Golok and is everywhere else. So, that personality who makes all these paradoxes possible is Supreme Lord. So in Krishna, parallel contradictions can coexist, or you can say all conflicting, contradicting. So all conflicting contradictions can get resolved simply by the presence of Spirit. So what is discipline? So whereas a devotee will become ecstatic, a materialistic person will feel crushed. Just like we see in the Brahma Vimohan Leela, that Brahma is feeling a lot of crushed. So materialistic person will feel crushed, whereas a devotee will feel ecstatic. So this is the difference between when we take shelter of the Supreme Lord, any situation will increase one's Sharanagati. But when one is not surrendered to the Supreme Lord, every situation is potentially crushing. The devotee cannot understand what to do. Let's read further. See, for a devotee, seeing Krishna's apparent contradiction, devotee will become so overjoyed and ecstatic. And so, because it is so hope-giving to say that, okay, now our progress in devotional service and our conditioning itself is a contradiction. Despite having millions of life of oceanic conditioning, that we are able to move forward in devotional service with the mercy of Lord, the great benediction. So Krishna resolves contradictions. Is the greatest of the demonic personalities. Uh, Jagai and Madai, they were transformed into devotees. So it appears contradictory, it appears confounding. For a devotee, because the devotee is able to relate to the hand of the Lord, it is so ecstatic. Like Sari. यद्रूपमेतान् निजमाय अर्पितम् अर्थस्वरूपं बहुरूपरूपितम् संख्यान यस्यास्ति अयाथोपलम्बना तस्मै नमस्ते सपदेन रूपिणे नमस्ते. My dear Lord, this visible cosmic manifestation is a demonstration of all your own creative energy. Since the countless varieties of form within this cosmic manifestation are simply a display of your external energy, this Virat Roop, which is the universal body, not your real form, except for a devotee in transcendental consciousness. No one can perceive your actual form. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisance. My dear Lord, this visible cosmic manifestation is a demonstration of your own creative energy. Since the countless varieties of forms within this cosmic manifestation are simply a display of your external energy, this Virat Rupa is not your real form. So, except for a devotee in transcendental consciousness, no one can perceive your actual form. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisance. Mayavadi philosophers think that the universal form of the Lord to be real and his personalized form illusory. We can understand their mistake by a simple example. A fire consists of three elements: heat and light, which are the energy of fire, the fire itself. Anyone can understand that the original fire is a reality, that heat and light are simply the fire's energy. Heat and light are the formless energies of fire. And in that sense, they are unreal. Only the fire has form. Therefore, it is a real form of heat and light. As Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita, Maya tatam idam sarvam jagat avyakta murtinah. By me, in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. As the impersonal conception of the Lord is like the expansion of heat and light from a fire. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord also says, Matsthani sarva bhutani. Na chaham tesham avasthitah. The entire material creation is resting on Krishna's energy, either material, spiritual, or marginal. But because his form is absent from the expansion of his energy, he's personally not present. This inconceivable expansion of Supreme Lord's energy is called Achintya Shakti. No one can understand the real form of the Lord without being a devotee. So this is interesting. Here, Ariyama is telling, oh, this Virat Rupa is not your real form. Because he's saying that all your countless varieties are all your creative energies. He's saying that's the energy. And therefore, Virat Rupa is not real form. Because Virat Rupa is basically the expansion. Basically, the Virat Rupa is not the real form. Because Virat Rupa is the form which is given for as a meditation for a sadhaka who is stuck up. To be able to appreciate the personal feature of the Lord. So Bhagavatam, where the second canto, chapter 3, or I think so, 3, 2 or 3. But the Virat Rupa is mentioned, Prabhupada clearly says that this Virat Rupa is not the actual form. Or this is just a meditation of this. The people are impersonal, they are having a disease, or they are not able to relate to any form. For them to make them appreciate and understand, work on their possible. This meditation on the Virat Rupa. So we see, and Prabhupada is saying the impersonal conception the same way. Because heat and light are the formless manifestations of fire. Fire is the main thing. So that is unmanifest. Yes, definitely it's an energy of the Supreme Lord. But the Lord's personal presence, the connection to the Lord's personal manifestation, is the topmost figment of mercy, the topmost revelation. So it is childish to actually limit oneself to an impersonal feature, but the Lord is just it's an unmanifested way. So actually, like when we see the universe, the universal expansion of the Lord and the universal form of the Lord, when we see, our devotee should give the inspiration. See, the devotee can get very much inspired. Why? Because if the Lord of this material world, even though he's not present, is taking so much care of us. How much the Lord will care when we are with him? That's the point. So connect to the fire, not get lost in even light. Yeah. Jarajam, Shvedajam, Andajodhidam, Sharacharam, Devarashi, Pitrabhutam, Aindriyam, Tyogham, Shiti, Shaila, Sarit, Samudra, द्वीपा गृहरे गृहरक्षति अविधेय एत My dear Lord, you manifest your different energies in countless forms. As living entity is born from womb, from eggs, from perspiration, as plants and trees that grow out of the earth, as all the living beings both moving and standing, including the demigods, learned sages, and the Pitas, as outer space, as the higher planetary system containing the heavenly planets, and as the planet Earth, with its hills, rivers, seas, oceans, and islands. Indeed, all the stars and planets are simply manifestation of your different energies, but originally you are one without the second. Therefore, there is nothing beyond you. This entire cosmic manifestation is therefore not false, but simply a temporary manifestation of purpose. This verse completely rejects the theory of Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya, which states that spirit or Brahman is real, whereas the manifested material world with its great variety of things is unreal. So nothing is false, Prabhupada said. One thing may be permanent, another temporary, but both the permanent and temporary are facts. For example, if someone becomes angry at a certain period, no one can say that his anger is false. It is simply temporary. Everything we experience in our daily lives is of this same character. It is temporary but unreal. The different kinds of living entities coming from various sources are very clearly described in this verse. Some of them are born from a womb. Some, like certain insects, from human perspiration. Others hatch from eggs, and still others sprout from the earth. A living entity takes birth under different circumstances according to past activities, karma. So here again, we're saying this entire cosmic manifestation is therefore not false, but is simply a temporary manifestation. So the temporary is not unreal. That's what we are understanding. Yeah. So the temporary, you see, it's not false. What it means is that you see, point of the temporary gives a glimpse of the permanent. So therefore, a devotee does not claim temporary to be false. Okay, so all material elements are temporary but not false. If I do stress and false ego, that is also an element of nature. Yeah, ego means identification. Ego not a display of energy. Ego is a wrong perception, cataract in the vision. That's ego. And therefore, it needs to be operated. So we were making the point that temporary is a glimpse of the eternal. Therefore, one should understand that what positive experience in this world, that's just a temporary reflection. So when we see the conception of considering this temporary as false, as soon as we get to understand something is false, we may just want to immediately reject it. That's the point. But we understand this is temporary, then we understand that this is not going to last. But this is giving me a good enough clear that if I connect to Krishna, then this temporary can be integrated into permanent or perennial. So devotee very intelligent in that way. So the devotee rather gets enthused, thinking that okay, this is temporary and this will very soon get lost. But I can make more of it. Or I can make it permanent. So if this temporary is giving me a transient sense of happiness, If I practice bhakti very nicely, I can get that same sense of happiness back. So therefore, a devotee is not bewildered or intoxicated by the illusion of this world. So the devotee feels that okay, in this material world, I'm getting a glimpse. Okay, there's something that exciting, something that titillating, and all that. But why to go only for a short time? But I can understand. So therefore, a devotee is always eager that before this temporary setup dwindles up, so the knowledge of the temporary as a temporary can trigger actually deeper, more powerful. So temporary is a positive. The devotee is racing that okay, before this temporary gets lost, gets goes into the oblivion, let me activate my permanent connection. So what I'm getting from the temporary, I can get much more from the permanent connection. Oh my lord, your name, form, and bodily features are expanded in countless forms. No one can determine exactly how many forms exist. Yet you yourself, in your incarnation as a learned scholar Kapil Dev, having analyzed the cosmic manifestation as containing 24 elements. So therefore, if one is interested in Sankhya philosophy, by which no one can enumerate the different truths, must. Once again. No, that's not impersonal because that's a way to help one transcend one's vision. It becomes impersonalism when one concludes and quits the Lord's full-on training session. The Lord is slowly building up a person to come to devotional steps. So one is taking step by step. That's not impersonalism. Like when we are saying getting the eyes to see God, we're not talking impersonalism. We're just raising people's vision step by step. But one who quits, one is not taking the full message, the full training protocol, the full treatment. In between, one quits. So then it becomes impersonal. So we are also now teaching, introducing step by step. So one who leaves in between, such a person is going to wrong. You got the point? Okay, so we have read 33. Philosophers and scientists have been trying to study the entire cosmic situation and have been theorizing and calculating in different ways for millions and millions of years. However, the speculative research work of the so-called scientist or philosopher is always interrupted when he dies, and the laws of nature go on without regard for his work. For billions of years, changes take place in the material creation until at last the whole universe is destroyed, dissolved, and remains in an unmanifested state. Constant change and destruction, bhutva bhutva prakriti, are perpetually going on in nature. Yet the materialistic scientists want to study natural laws without knowing the supreme personality of God to do the background of nature. As Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita 9:10, "Maya dakshena prakriti swete sacharacharam hetunane konte jagat viparivartate." This material nature is working under my direction as Samapati and is producing all moving and non-moving things. So now the material creation is manifest. Eventually, it will be annihilated, remain for many millions of years in a dormant state, and finally, it will again be created. That is the law of nature. Okay, so let's stop here. Congratulations, Bharat. Thank you. Bye-bye.